People, Deluded, I'm back again. Welcome back to another edition of the Deluded podcast. Now, I was here on Tuesday, I think, so not much has happened in the world of football. But as you saw, there's the EFL Trophy or EFL Cup, Carling Cup, whatever you want to refer to it as. You know, a lot of teams were rotated. My team, Arsenal, won. You know, you saw Curtis Jones score for Liverpool. You saw young Liam Delap score for Manchester City. And it is what it is in that regards, man. You know, there was a lot of action in midweek. You obviously had Spurs. They didn't play against Leyton Orient due to, I believe, coronavirus infections surrounding Leyton Orient. And yeah, man, they won their Europa League game. So it's been quite the week. And obviously we've got Premier League action to come. So let's jump straight into it, man. Really, the best would be just to obviously start with, I forgot the name of the trophy now, the Carling Cup, people. Now, obviously, the big one, you saw Chelsea win 6-0 against Barnsley. Tammy hasn't had much game time. He managed to score. Kai Havertz, now they signed him for 80-90 million in total. I'm sure they didn't buy him to score a hat-trick against Barnsley. But at the end of the day, he got his first 3 goals for Chelsea. You know, he got a hat-trick. He gets the match ball. That's good for any player. And, you know, that might be a bit of a good one for his confidence. He looked in that game. He looked physically up for it. Forget the opposition, because Chelsea, you know, Chelsea's under 18s probably put a good match in against Barnsley. What I liked about it is he was getting kicked, he kept going, and it's almost like he went, yeah, you're going to kick me, I'm going to kick you. And, you know, I believe for a lot of foreign players when they come to this league, I do think they can hack it technically. I don't think it's that hard of a league. I just feel, you know, what the Premier League lacks in general quality, excluding the others, it makes up with tenacity, heart, and passion. And, you know, you buy into that, you have success. It's more just a culture shock than anything for foreign players, you know, because they can always hack it, in my opinion. So, yeah, that was a standout game. Obviously, Luton Town lost 3-0 to Manchester United. Brighton beat Preston 2-0 by the same scoreline. Burnley defeated Millwall. West Ham haven't had a good season. You know, they won 5-1 against Hull City. And, you know, I would say this, not to dig any clubs out, but the whole COVID testing, you know, you've got some clubs that are kind of withholding it so they can play these cup games so they can get P's. Then you've got teams like Leyton Orient who happily obliged by Spurs' request to test their players, and then obviously they're thrown out of the league, thrown out the cup, and Spurs advance. So obviously I want testing and whatnot, but there's got to be an incentive by the EFL and the Premier League and everyone to actually get clubs to keep testing, because, listen, clubs are losing money morally. Some might just withhold results and whatnot. But enough of all of that, people. Let me move my laptop because it's in my way. Newport County defeated Watford 3-1. Probably the shocker of the week, to be fair with you. West Bromwich Albion lost to Brentford as well. So, yeah, West Brom haven't had a good start to the season in any competitions, people. Obviously, my team, Arsenal, you know, we got away with it against Leicester, 2-0. A lot to improve on, but end of the day, it was a rotated side. We got a clean sheet. We scored 2 goals. There was no injuries. We moved forward, to be fair with you. So it is what it is in relation to the EFL Cup. A quick note on Spurs in the Europa. As you lot know, this is a tough period for Spurs because the games are coming thick and fast. You know, they've now played 2 games in the Europa League before the official rounds have started, and I believe they will play another one. They have Newcastle on the weekend. They obviously had the Europa on Thursday, and they're lucky they didn't on Tuesday have to play in the Carling Cup against Leyton Orient, or it's a testing time already for Spurs and that squad, to be fair with you. But in the Europa League, I can't lie, I don't even know the name of the team, people. I can't even pronounce that. No, I'm not even going to try. Shkendija is who they played, people. I can't pronounce that. But Jose Mourinho's men, while they didn't fully convince, and they're yet to play a full convincing game for me in all comps this season, they won 3-1. You know, they did well against Southampton to get the onslaught of goals, but anyone who watches that game, Spurs fans will agree, it took them a while to get started. There was a period Southampton were all over them. You know, and I'm sure you all saw the big talking point of that game was actually Jose Mourinho speaking about the goals being 5 meters too small. I'm sure you've all seen the social media clips circulating of him actually trying to touch the post. He was alerted to it by his goalie, and you did see smaller looking goals. You did see the penalty spot kind of bubbled up and whatnot. It did look like this team was doing all they can to make sure Spurs didn't have an easy time. But obviously, it came to no avail. The one thing I will say, they scored a banger to make it 1-1 at one point. I don't know the players, but they scored a banger, serious banger from outside the area. Obviously, Spurs went and done the business. Lamena opened the scoring. Son and Kane obviously helped to save the day. With that, Spurs have obviously booked a Europa League playoff clash against Maccabi Haifa next week. So yeah, we'll have to see what happens in that regards. As Jose Mourinho said, we didn't play magnificently, but we did the job. In the first half, we were 41 minutes without scoring. Then we gave them space to play. In the second half, after changes, and I'd like to see players come in and make an impact. And the players who came on made a difference. And what manager doesn't? That's the whole point of substitutions. I'm sure you all saw the Super Cup. It was a good clash between Seville and Munich. Seville put up much of a fight. Obviously, they took the lead via the penalty spot 13 minutes in with a Campos. You had Goretzka obviously equalised for Bayern Munich after a lovely assist by Lewandowski. And Lewandowski, as a striker, you want to be known for goals, but I do think his general play is underrated when you compare him to the other players. He can hit free kicks. He's not the fastest, but he can drop deep and get involved. He can hold the ball up and do that typical target man stuff, but he can play neat little 1-2s, and he's a good playmaker. It was a brilliant assist by him. And what was it, a couple of games ago, or what was it, against Schalke? He's doing Rabona flicks. Lewandowski is a legend without a doubt. He's underrated in my opinion. He's rated but underrated, because I just think people just focus too much on his goals, and he's a gunman in front of goal, make no mistake, but he has a lot more about him. With obviously winning the Super Cup, Alphonse Davies continues his great rise from Canada. Shout out to him. He's a lovely player. I got a lot of time for him. It's early days in relation to talk about Champions League and who's going to win it and the rest of it, but you've already got to put Bayern Munich as potential favourites already. Look at the squad depth. They've lost Thiago, which is a blow, and I'm sure they're going to bring somebody in, but even if they don't, they've got fantastic options. With that, though, Thomas Muller has become the most decorated player in German history, people. So, yeah, it's a good little bit of statistics for him. So, yeah, big up Bayern Munich for obviously defeating Seville. Commiserations to Seville. I did think the keeper I don't want to go as far as to say the keeper cost them, but it was dodgy goalkeeping that led to Javi Martinez scoring. Javi Martinez might not even be at Bayern Munich soon. There's been a lot of talk about him leaving, so what a good parting gift that's been so far from him. Moving away from that though, folks, and it's time to get into Premier League action without a doubt. Now, Man United didn't start the Premier League campaign well by any stretch of the imagination. They face off against Brighton, which is going to be a difficult task. You look at it, Brighton have won 3 of their last 5 home games against Manchester United. Last season, they lost 3-0. I'm sure you'll remember Greenwood scoring and a fantastic assist by Greenwood. I think Bruno scored. Martial or Pogba might have been on the score sheet, but I remember watching that game. It was a good performance from United's attacking players. Manchester United have obviously won each of the last 3 meetings with Brighton. Of all top flight sides, only against Leicester are the Red Devils on a longer current winning run. Brighton have won 2 of their last 3 Premier League games. That's as many as they have in their previous 17. They're looking to pick up back-to-back wins for the first time since November 2019. Obviously, last week they put Newcastle to the sword. Brighton have won just 1 of their last 10 home games so far in 2020, and losing 5 and drawing 4. Guess who they picked up 3 points against, people? Yes, my club, Arsenal. It would be us. The Seagulls have lost 4 of their last 5 games, however, at their stadium, and they've shipped at least 3 goals in each defeat. So United might have a lot of problems. People might speak about left back, centre half, and all these things, but you'd imagine Greenwood, Martial, Rashford, Pogba, Van der Beek, if he plays, Bruno, these players, they're going to have to make the difference. This team cannot keep clean sheets. They concede a lot of goals, so go and put them to the sword. We'll have to see what Man United do. Now, Everton have started the season well. Calvert-Lewin's being a gunman in front of goal and doing his best to remind Southgate that I know the Euros has been delayed by a year, but I am going. Apologies, people. They face Crystal Palace, who I know we just spoke about Man United come off the back of a fantastic 3 points at Old Trafford. It doesn't matter what period, it doesn't matter. It's always a good 3 points to win at Manchester United. My team, Arsenal, I can't tell you when we last took 3 points specifically in the league. You're probably looking at 2006, which was however many years ago. I was about to say the wrong thing. I'm not a maths man, so let me save myself on this podcast. But moving on, Palace are winless in each of their last 11 games against Everton. So they're going to need to fix up. And, Zaha, who's been linked with Everton, is going to have a big part to play. And if I'm Palace players, that's a negative part of history. You don't want to be part of a Palace team that potentially could ensure that Palace go 12 games without winning against Everton at Goodison Park. It's a crazy one. Each of the last 3 games in the Premier League between the two sides at Selhurst Park have ended level, including back-to-back 0-0 draws most recently. So we'll have to see, man. I mean, for the betters, that might be, you put a little draw. Who knows, man? But the way Everton are playing, it's probably going to be a crazy little game. Everton have kept more Premier League clean sheets at Selhurst Park than any other venue. Following their 1-0 win at Spurs at the weekend, Everton are looking to win back-to-back Premier League games in London for the first time since 2015. And obviously, Palace should believe they can do this because they've kicked off a top-flight campaign with 2 consecutive victories for the first time in their history. So let's see what they're on. Chelsea, I believe, play against West Brom. West Brom have lost more Premier League games against Chelsea than they have any other opponent in each of their last 4 in a row without scoring a single goal. So they've been battered and been toothless in front of Chelsea's goal. You'd imagine, I don't know who is going to play, but you'd imagine Kai Havertz is in contention to play in that game. You'd imagine hopefully he picks up where he left off in terms of his form in midweek, and you want to see him get going in the league. West Brom, they need to improve defensively. They've conceded some very cheap goals in their last 2 games, and they will not have a chance in the league if they do not fix up. And to reiterate that point, they've conceded more goals than any other Premier League side so far this season, 8. And 8 is the most they've ever shipped in the first 2 games of a league campaign. However, Chelsea aren't exactly good at keeping clean sheets themselves. Chelsea have kept just 1 clean sheet in 20 Premier League games under Frank Lampard when they won 2-0 in 2019 against Spurs. The last clean sheet outside of London came in May 2019, which was a 0-0 draw against Leicester. So again, if Chelsea want to improve and do more than just qualifying for the top 4, they need to improve defensively. How much they can improve defensively, I'm not too sure. It looks like Rudiger's on his way out. I'm not too sure if they're going to bring a centre-half in. I don't know. I hear a lot of talk about midfield. Lampard played on the Jose Mourinho sides, which had great attacking talent, many powerhouses, creative players, etc. Had talented players in the attacking sense. But crucially, you looked at that defence from the goalie, whether it was Peter Cech, whether it was Carvalho and Terry, Ashley Cole, and whoever was right back, Paulo Ferreira or whatever. There was a competent back 5 that was central to any league plans. Now I look at that Chelsea team. I see Reece James is 30. Chilwell's just come. You've got Zuma who's all right, but it doesn't really. Are they of the level defensively to improve? I think there's some players, as I've just said, you can move forward with, but I think they're missing a trick not bringing in a centre half. Especially if Rudiger completes what a lot of people expect to be a departure from the club in some capacity, whether that's a loan or a permanent move, people. We'll have to see. Burnley and Southampton play against each other. Burnley are unbeaten in their last 7 Premier League meetings with Southampton. Southampton have won only 1 of their 11 top-flight away games against Burnley. Burnley have played more Premier League home games against Southampton without suffering defeat than any other side they faced in the competition. Burnley have lost their last 2 Premier League games. Have lost their 2 Premier League games. The Clarets had won just 1 of their previous 15 in the competition prior to this. Southampton haven't begun a Premier League season with 3 consecutive defeats since their first season back in the division in 2012-13. So that's a negative one. Now, Leeds United finally got 3 points last week. We'll be playing against Sheffield, which is going to be a fantastic one for the neutrals. Sheffield have won 4 of their last 5 games against Leeds. This will be the first top-flight meeting between the sides since 1994. Leeds won their last visit to Bramall Lane in 2018. 31 goals have been scored over the last 8 top-flight meetings between Sheffield United and Leeds. Leeds have got 19, Sheffield have got 12. So it's promised to probably produce a lot of goals. And based on the last 2 Leeds games, Leeds don't have a great defense, but they show that they can score a couple goals, and that's not necessarily a healthy formula. But for the betting ones, in the same way, you might predict a draw or a lack of goals in the Everton Palace game, this might be a high scoring game for you guys. This will be the first Yorkshire derby in the Premier League since May 2001, and I'm sure neither team wants to lose that. And it's a shame the fans can't be in this, man, really and truly. It's sad, man. It's really sad. Leeds, obviously, in their first 2 Premier League games have scored 13 goals. Have seen 14 goals scored, 7-4 and 7 against. That's more than any other team in the Premier League over these 2 games so far, which isn't necessarily healthy, but it shows that there's a lot that can be done, people. Moving away from that, we kind of spoke about Spurs earlier, and Spurs will be playing against Newcastle. They've won 5 of their last 6 meetings with Newcastle United, although the only exception was last season when Joe Linton obviously ensured Newcastle won 1-0. Against no side of Newcastle won more Premier League away games than their 10 against Tottenham, so this could be a bit of a bogey team, Of the Premier League games to have been played on at least 50 occasions, only Aston Villa versus Liverpool has seen a higher percentage of away wins than Newcastle versus Tottenham. Spurs haven't lost consecutive home games since January 2019, which was against Wolves and United, while they've not lost their first 2 home games of a campaign since 2008-2009. Newcastle have won 4 of their last 7 Premier League games in London, so we'll see what that one throws up. Now, Pep Guardiola, he has his eyes firmly set on the Premier League trophy. They play against Leicester, where Leicester have earned some serious respect over the last few years in the league. Man City have won 6 of their last 7 Premier League meetings against Leicester, losing the other 2-1 on Boxing Day in 2018-19. Leicester have lost each of their last 4 Premier League trips to Man City, people, which is crazy. Man City have never lost their opening home match in any of their last 25 top-flight campaigns, drawing 9 and winning 16. Leicester have never lost their opening 3 Premier League matches in a single top-flight campaign before. Leicester have never won their opening top-flight 3 games in a season campaign in the top level before. I apologise for that. Man City are unbeaten in their last 11 home games, drawing 1, winning 10, scoring at least twice in each game. If you was to look at their last 7, they've won by an aggregate scoreline of 26-1, which is quite nervy for anybody playing against City. You've got West Ham versus Wolves. West Ham need to sign some players. Wolves is fast becoming Portugal FC. Nuno might as well become the automatic Portugal gaffer if this continues. Signing Semedo's a fantastic signing, in my opinion. West Ham have lost each of their last 4 Premier League meetings with Wolves without scoring a single goal. Wolves have won both of their Premier League visits to the London Stadium since being promoted back in 2018. Wolves have lost their last Premier League game in London on the final day of 2019-20, which was against Chelsea. West Ham have lost each of their opening 3 league games in 2 of the last 3 seasons. West Ham haven't kept a clean sheet in any of their last 10 Premier League home games. And this is probably why Moyes is crying out for action in relation to a centre-half. And the latest Arsenal centre-half they've been linked with is not Holding anymore, not Chambers, but actually Socrates. So is there any truth in that? I don't know. Fulham play against Villa, and Fulham need to get their act together, or it's going to be a short stay in the top division. Fulham have won 6 of their last 8 meetings with Villa in all competitions. Obviously, after being unbeaten in 6 games in the Premier League against Fulham, Aston Villa are winless in their last 4 clashes in the top flight. So there's something there. Only West Ham have lost more games against newly promoted opposition than Aston Villa. Villa have earned just 1 point from their last 30 available in Premier League matches in London. None of Fulham's last 21 home league games have finished level, with the Cottagers winning just 5 of their last 16 in relation to this, and 45 goals have been shipped against them in the process. Last but not least, obviously following Liverpool's fantastic victory in the EFL Trophy, where Curtis Jones played quite well, we obviously play against Liverpool people, and it's gonna be a tough one. I don't know if I've mentioned it, but shout out to Liverpool for their 7-1, 7-2 victory. Curtis Jones, standout player for me, and obviously shout out to Liam Delap for coming off the bench. The 17-year-old bagged, stuff of dreams for Pep Guardiola's men in their 2-1 victory. And on the topic of City, Pep has been quite frequent, and he's only got 13 fit players, so there could be opportunities for young players going forward, and they have a bit of a crisis. But moving back to specifically the Premier League action, with obviously Liverpool beating Lincoln 7-2. That set up the prospect of 2 clashes away at Anfield for Arsenal next week. On Monday we've got them in the league, and I'm shook of Thiago. I mean, he's going to bully it. And this is a big test of Arsenal's credentials, because this is our first top 6 clash. Apologies, people, while I blow my nose. If we don't win, then, you can't draw too many conclusions. But if we win, you can't draw too many conclusions. What I want to see is a competent performance. If Liverpool win, they win. But I want to see, it was a thing where Mo Salah and Mane and their quality shined. It's not defenders lapsing in concentration, not following runners and things like that. We've beat Liverpool in all comps in the last 2 games, in the league and in the Community Shield. So I'm sure Klopp's men, want Arsenal to stop thinking they're better than us, if they did ever think that, Liverpool have won their last 4 home league games against Arsenal. They've not won more consecutively against the Gunners at Anfield since a run of 7 between 1981 and 88. Arsenal's 2-1 victory over Liverpool back in July was their first win over the Reds in 10 Premier League games. We're looking to put back-to-back wins in the league against them for the first time since September 2012. Since our 1-0 victory over Leicester in 2017, Arsenal are winless in their last 6 games in the Premier League against the reigning champions. However, Arsenal have won each of their last 3 against Liverpool, with the Reds as reigning champions. So anytime they've won the league, we've beat them. So hopefully that's a good omen for us. And another one for the betters. Arsenal win, Palace and Everton draw, high scoring game in the Leeds game, people. We can put a little acca together. So we'll see what that one is saying, people. Moving away from that and speaking about general news, the Premier League is still awaiting a detailed proposal from the Football League relating to a requested 250 million bailout. The BBC was told earlier this month the EFL expected to be given details by the Premier League about financial assistance it might offer for clubs to get through the coronavirus pandemic by the end of September. This has become obviously even more urgent given the government's decision to end crowd pilots and block the fans returning to stadiums from the start of next month. While the Premier League will continue advancing solidarity payments earlier than normal, apparently BBC have understood while accepting the need for speed and to be flexible in their approach. League sources say they are not completely clear what the EFL is asking for beyond the headline sum. Apparently, BBC has also been told the Premier League needs detailed analysis of what the money is needed for, whom and precisely why. Without this, the organisation is reluctant to hand over a cheque at a time when clubs are feeling huge financial pressures. And obviously, it went on to speak about the fans. Sadly, due to COVID, we all knew a lot of sports would face cuts or being disbanded. And England's futsal team, has been a victim of that. The Football Association's decision to axe England's futsal trophy. What am I talking about? Sorry, I'm trying to read 2 things at once. The Football Association's decision to act England's futsal teams is an attack on the sport, says a member of the senior side. As you lot know, the national governing body said funding for elite teams would end because of unavoidable budget cuts associated with COVID-19. It also said money for grassroots futsal would be significantly reduced from this season onwards, which is obviously sad, man. It doesn't matter what sport you support. To see people have to miss out as a result of this is always upsetting. Romelu Lukaku is having a great time playing for Inter Milan, and whatever it said, when it's all said and done, he's had a good career. He's shined for Belgium. He's played for 2 big clubs in Chelsea and United. He's played for Anderlecht in his homeland, and he's playing for one of the biggest clubs in Italy, in Inter Milan. And he's actually acknowledged that racism exists all over Europe and says Italy is a madness. But he also said it's the best place he's played in. Best country he's played in. He said, I've been confronted by it many times in my life. You build a type of shell. I take my anger out on the field. It still exists all over Europe, and it's absurd. Even in Italy, it happened to me once. I reacted, but it never happened again. I don't want to confuse these 300 who whistle with thousands of civil citizens. I'm confident that the absurdity of the racism is co-signed to the past. How much? And then he obviously spoke about how much he's enjoying the country. People, he said, it's the best country I've ever been. The Italians welcomed me with open arms, and I'm grateful to everyone. And Italy's a lovely country with some lovely people and lovely cuisine. Sadly, a lot of idiots ruin it and ruin the image of Italian society because of how they act over football. It's an end of an era at Barcelona. MSN is finally no more. There was 2 lasting band members after Neymar leaving. I know Messi's thrown his toys out the pram and looked like he was going to leave Barcelona this year. But Luis Suarez has left and has joined Atletico Madrid for 5 to 6 million euros, people. It's crazy, And I know a lot of people talk about Suarez being finished and, he's 33. But at the same time, he scored 21 goals in 36 games for Barcelona last season. That could help Atletico. It seems like Atletico are building a squad, You get him. Apparently, they're in talks with Cavani, as is Real Madrid too. And there's also Lucas Torreira. So it looks like they're trying to unite the South American energy. And Simeone wants some of his fellow, what's the right word? Geographical men. Because, the Uruguayans and Argentinians, they see football kind of similar. It's sad to see, even though I have nothing to do with Barcelona, it's sad to see Suarez leave, man. He's become part of the furniture. He's been there for 6 seasons, in 283 games, 198 goals, 13 trophies, and is the club's 3rd highest all-time top goal scorer, behind Cesar and Lionel Messi. If there was ever 2 players you wouldn't mind being behind in the list, it's them 2. There's no way around it. Luis Suarez is a Premier League legend. He's a Barcelona legend. 13 trophies. Best one out of all of them is probably the Premier League. Man said Premier League. The Champions League. It's sad. And Suarez had a lot to say. He was given a sort of farewell press conference, and it was quite emotional. He said, "My teammates were always fantastic, and everyone knows about my sacrifice here. I'm proud of leaving that way. Playing here was a dream, and I never imagined I could reach these numbers, because at Barcelona, you must always perform at the top, and you'll never know how long you will stay. There were moments in those years. My best memories are the first Liga trophy, the Champions League, the goals, and playing with these amazing players I knew before from PlayStation. I must enjoy these moments." He then went on to say, "I already accepted leaving in that way. Now I must change my mind and focus on a new challenge. It was a crazy month. The last one, many wrong things were published, which made me angry. But everyone knows about my relationship with Messi. When I arrived here, I knew all about him. And after 6 years, we have an amazing relationship. I leave very proud. I already expected Koeman's call because I was warned about that. I could accept this even though I had a contract. We must accept that decision." So, yeah, everything comes to an end. And to be fair, he's done his thing at Ajax. He's done his thing previously at Groningen. He's gone to Liverpool, and I don't think he won a major trophy. He might have won the League Cup with Kenny Dalglish. I could be wrong. But, he left his hallmark in the Premier League. I wouldn't go as far to say he's a Premier League legend, but he left his mark. And then he's definitely a La Liga, a Barcelona, a Champions League, a football legend because of what he's given to the game based at Barcelona in those 6 years. Luis Suarez is a baller. Hopefully he doesn't bite anybody and he joins Atletico. At 33, still got a lot to offer, People might say he's finished and they might be right, but Aubameyang and Vardy aren't the oldest. It's all about how you look after yourself. And I think Suarez will be all right, man, personally, but we'll have to see. Moving away from that, though, folks, and just focusing lastly on the champions. I'm all over the place. It's early in the morning. The transfer business. Apparently, Sheffield United have a breakthrough in the Balogun talks. Sheffield United believe they can secure a deal for Balogun after Arsenal indicated they are ready to sell the highly rated forward, according to Yorkshire Live. Apparently, it went on to say that Blades chief executive Stephen Bettis has talked to his Arsenal counterparts, including Edu Gaspar. Talks are understood to have been constructive, with Sheffield United increasingly hopeful after the London Giants indicated that they were ready to sell. Sheffield United have obviously lost their past 5 Premier League games, right? So we'll have to see. According to Fabrizio Romano, Atletico Madrid are convinced that Partey is going to stay and will not negotiate with Arsenal. We've also heard a lot of talk about Torreira going there. The latest is that Arsenal's have rejected Atletico's bid. Hopefully some middle ground can be got in relation to you give us Partey, we'll give you Torreira, and we keep it moving sort of thing. Now, Seville versus Bayern Munich was of interest to me because Jules Koundé didn't play. I've been following him since Bordeaux. He's gone from strength to strength with Seville, with Diego Carlos partnering him and the rest of the defensive options. He's been linked with Man City. And I think that would be a great signing. Him and Ake improves their defense. It adds depth. You get a fit Laporte. It could be that. We don't know what's in the water in France. And I think Jules shows that. They'd have Jules. We'd have Saliba. Upamecano is about. There's bare sort of man like that. So we'll have to see what happens in that regards. Apparently, Real Madrid forward Borja Moralo is in talks with Roma, and apparently he has agreed to move there. However, two clubs still need to reach an agreement. Mendy has obviously been confirmed as Chelsea's new goalkeeper. Big up Mendy. He signed from Rennes. He's had a fantastic journey. He's gone from unemployed to playing potentially Champions League football and playing for Chelsea. This means, apparently, according to, I'm not going to name the newspaper, but it's a three-worded newspaper, Kepa Aspilicueta, I can't say his name. I tried, people. I'm going to say Kepa. Apparently, he's set to leave on loan. Where he goes on loan, I'm not too sure. And you'd have to imagine, Kepa. Chelsea have signed a lot of flops in the Premier League, but you'd have to imagine he is undoubtedly the biggest flop. He signed for 80 million. Wasn't he given a 5-6 year deal? And he's, I'd love to work out his wages and his errors and how much he actually cost Chelsea a game. There's no way around it. He has been a flop. It would probably make sense for him to go out on loan. And I think it speaks volumes that, Lampard sees Willie Caballero or them man there as second choice, third choice options if anything happens to Mendy. Then Kepa, it shows you how much his stock's fallen. He was highly rated. I rated him highly based on his Spanish thing. At one point, I thought he was a better keeper than Leno. And I mean, it's a good thing I don't talk about goalies often, people, because thankfully for me, Leno has shown that was BS. Now, apparently, Manchester United will make one final attempt of a 90 million bid for Jadon Sancho next week. We'll have to see what happens there. Ruben Loftus-Cheek has been linked with Aston Villa, West Ham and Leeds United. And, some have said loan, some have said permanent. That's an interesting one for him to go through. As you lot know, Arsenal have been linked with Joringho. I don't mind the signing of Joringho. It's someone that can compete with Xhaka. It's someone that could play with Xhaka if there's high possession-based football. If it's not a game for mad bouts of possession, one has to wonder what happens. And off the ball, Xhaka and Joringho as a midfield option or a midfield pairing doesn't fill me with any confidence. It's not a tenacious midfield partnership. It's not an aggressive midfield partnership. It's not screaming goals or assists or dynamism. So while I wouldn't mind Joringho if he came to the club, we need to be looking at Partey and Aouar, in my opinion. Apparently Everton are lining up a move for Manchester United's goalkeeper Romeo as pressure grows on Jordan Pickford, who they should get rid of. Apparently PSG are prepared to pull out of negotiations to sign Dele Alli on a season-long loan. Speaking of loan bids, England and Chelsea winger Callum Hudson-Odoi is pushing for a loan move away from Stamford Bridge. Philip Coutinho to Arsenal on loan has resurfaced, and the people are saying that could happen before the end of the window. Barcelona are to make one final effort to sign Lautaro Martinez, and apparently RB Leipzig are closing in signing a centre-half, which could obviously mean Upamecano being allowed to leave, people. West Brom have been linked with former Arsenal and Man City striker Adebayor, who's 36. Wesley Fofana apparently could be joining Leicester City on loan, but St Etienne, similar to Saliba deal, they want him back. If Leicester do want to buy him permanently, they'd have to loan him back. So we'll have to see what happens. Bayern Munich have said their midfielder Mikel Cousins will not leave on loan despite interest from Marseille and Leeds in the 21-year-old. I don't know if they see him as taking the spot Thiago vacated. We'll have to see. On that note, though, I don't think I've got anything more to speak about. So we've spoken about the cup competitions. We've spoken about the EFL. It's always a pleasure speaking to you lot, people. But in relation to this episode of the Deluded podcast, I haven't got much to speak about, man. It's time for me to go get a coffee. It's early in the morning. I'm still half asleep. I can't lie, people. If you haven't had enough of my voice and my opinions, please make sure you check out my YouTube content. If this is your first time listening to me, make sure you're subscribed across all platforms from Spotify to Apple to Google to YouTube. Please take care. Have a great day. And you know me, man, after the Premier League action over the weekend and Monday's game against Liverpool, I'll be back here with another edition of the Deluded podcast. And once again, in the meantime, there's a crap load of YouTube videos consistently being uploaded by myself. So there's always something for someone if you know where to look. On that note, though, I'm going to keep it moving. It's been a fantastic podcast speaking to you lot. Hopefully you lot feel equally the same way listening, and I hope I provided some sort of value to your Friday. People, God bless, DG.